everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm glad you're here. Today I'm going to show you how to make 2 cards using the May stamp of the month called You Can Do Anything. So you can get this stamp set for $5 with any $50 purchase during the month of May, or for free with $50 if you're a VIP. So I'm going to use wood grain papers, mix-in papers, textured papers, and papers from Smarty Pants. Okay, so I'm going to cut pieces at 2.5 by 6 to accommodate that mountain scene stamp in each of these pattern papers. And then my card base is going to be this piece from As You Grow. It looks like a star field, so I'm going to cut that at 4.25 by 5.5. Okay, so I have the mountain scene in my Misty ready to go, and I'm going to stamp this multiple times and then I'll do some fussy cutting. So I'm going to stamp it in intense black on 3 of these pieces of patterned paper. So this is the first one, and the wood grain papers, that's going to be my mountains. And this piece of mix-in, I really just want the moon or sun. In this case, it's going to be the moon. I want that, and then I'm going to fussy cut that out. I can use the rest of this for another card. And then this piece that looks like denim will be the water reflection below the mountains. Okay. All right, we'll get cleaned up and get the Misty out of the way. And then I'm going to do some stamping. So I'm going to flip my Versamat over, and I'm going to stamp some of these tiny trees in Harbor and just scatter a few of them around. And they'll look like trees on the mountainside. Okay. And keep the Harbor ink out and bring in some white daisy, and I'm going to stamp several of these little clouds on white daisy. So I'll use a few for this card and then a couple for the next card. Okay, so off screen I'm going to fussy cut everything. Okay, so I cut the mountains and then I cut the moon, and now I'm going to add a little reflection of the moon in the water here. So I'm using a tri-blend marker, and then I'm going to use a white gel pen to create kind of a reflection of the moon shining off the water. Okay, now I'm going to assemble. So I'm going to get a card base out. This will be a top fold A2, and it's pretty basic assembly. Just going to add my Smarty Pants card base, and I'm just using Tombow tape runner, and then I'll add this reflected water scene, and I'm letting the edges hang off of the left and right side of the card, and I'll trim those later. I'll add my mountains. And then we'll add the moon. Okay, so then I'll just open this card up and trim off the excess that hangs over the edges. Okay, so now I need my sentiment, and I'm going to bring in this denim paper. The flip side, it looks like cement. It's just kind of interesting, so I thought I'd stamp my sentiment on it. And it says, "You can do anything." And I'm going to create a banner. Okay, so I'll bring in my trimmer and I'm just going to trim around my sentiment. And then I'll dovetail one end. So just snip vertically and take each corner to meet that snip. And then I decided I needed to trim that left side of the sentiment a little bit more. I'm going to bring in a Close to My Heart journal pen and just doodle a line around the border of this banner, just to give it a little more definition. Okay. All right, now we can finish assembling. Add my sentiment. Didn't quite get it straight, so I'm going to fix that. And then I'll add my clouds. So some will be with glue directly to the card, and then I'll pop a couple with foam tape, or just one with foam tape, and kind of overlap it over the other cloud. And then for the last touch, I'll save those other two clouds for the next card. For the last touch, I'm going to add some clear shimmer brush to the clouds and the moon, just to give them a little shimmer and shine. Okay, there's my finished card. It's fun to choose the textured, different patterns and textures to create your scene. Okay, next card, I'm going to use these papers from Hope and Kindness. These are the cardstock. So this is the Harbor and Sage, and then one of the pattern papers. And my base is going to be the light side of Glacier. So I'm going to cut this at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm going to cut each of these cardstock pieces at 2 3/4 by 6. And then, and you can see I goofed up there and cut it at 5 1/2, so I'll use the other one. And then I'm going to use the circle thin cut. These are the nested circles, and this one is 2 3/4. So I'm going to die cut a circle out of that patterned paper. And it's hard to see in the video here, but it kind of has circles on the pattern there. So I'm strategically placing that die. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the other card and stamp out this mountain scene on my cardstock. So we'll do the Sage one first, and then I'll do the Harbor. So the harbor is going to be the water with the mountains reflected. And then off camera, I will fussy cut everything. We'll get things cleaned up, and I'll fussy cut, and then I'll die cut that circle. Okay, so I've also colored in this mountain scene using some tri-blend markers to give it a little shading and definition. So now we can start building our card. So I have an A2 card base, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. So I'm kind of laying everything out just so I know where I can stamp my sentiment. And it says, "It's a beautiful day to go after your dreams." So I'm going to stamp that in Harbor ink. And then I have this tiny stamp that looks like a bird flying. I'm going to lay my clouds out so I know where to place them. So I'm going to stamp a couple of birds. And then I'm going to stamp some little trees on this mountain scene. Okay. All right, now we can start assembling. So it's basically the same as I did the other one. We'll just lay down our card base. And before you lay down that mountain scene, you need to put the sun down so it's behind the mountains. So we'll place that down and place that piece of harbor cardstock down. And again, I'm letting the excess hang over the edges. And then the mountains. And I'm kind of staggering this so that the darker harbor is behind them. So it kind of gives a little shadow there. And then I'll turn it over and trim off the excess. Okay, and then I'll add my clouds. I'm going to pop them with some foam tape. And then for the last step, I'm going to use a harbor shimmer brush and kind of create the look of water. And then I'll bring in a clear shimmer brush and kind of paint over the reflected mountains in the water. And it just gives it some pretty shimmer and shine. So all of these supplies are currently available in my online store, and I'll make a list with links in the description below. Here's some close-up shots. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it, and then you'll be able to find all of my videos. I hope you give this a try. It's a fun set. And thanks for watching.